scrolling through, we're taking a look at Posesi's first. Posesi finished 11-1 during the Swiss standings, the only player to achieve the 11-win mark.
And he's got a pretty consistent-looking build of Mage. The double sand countering the OTK Paladins, which is an interesting idea to build an entire side deck for, considering there weren't all too many of them. But it's clearly working.
So this is a different take on it, and honestly, I think against Sandbinder.
Yeah.
So it is two different takes. You know, Posesi did finish with a better overall score in this one, but when you're looking at 12 rounds of play, if you make the top 8 cut, in my opinion, you've done just about as equally good as anybody who shared a record and couldn't make it on tie breaks on that top 8 spot as well.
I agree. Posesi has clearly been having a very good tournament. Worth saying that it appears to be that his biggest weakness here, through now that we are in top 8, is nerves when he's on the stage. We saw him in the last series miss what was very likely to be a lethal with Conjurer's Calling on an opposing Rabble Bouncer. And even if he didn't find that lethal, he messed up the turn by not playing Ziliax and died to a Pyroblast. Basically, after a very well-played game of Mage, which he almost clawed himself back into from a very miserable position, he lost it right at the final spot. And if he can keep his head cool, stay in the game, then I think he's in with a really good shot of taking this. Because he knows what he's doing. He's a very, very strong player, but he has to just make sure that he's not getting flustered. And in terms of the start of this game here for Posesi, being on the coin is obviously very nice indeed. And double Mountain Giant, while this isn't even generally considered the best hand you can have anymore, I think with the Sorcerer's Apprentice, Banana Buffoon, Mana Cyclone nonsense generally considered a little bit higher now. If he can find himself a Conjurer's Calling with this hand, he's looking to be in a very, very good spot.
Yeah, Kalax's hand I don't think is shaping up this game.
I agree.
This could be just one of those spots where you end up with an unfortunate situation. And, you know, Snap Freeze I think could help buy back from that position. But I think overall, Kalaxz just looking for card draw on this one. I kind of wanted to talk about the form of the players a little bit in their Hearthstone careers. You know, for Posesi, he's been in the playoffs a few times without any, you know, real notable performances there.
Yeah.
He's had some tournaments outside of that, you know, more circuit-based things where he's had some pretty reasonable performances.
Yeah, I think he got third in WESG as the big one.
But honestly, like, this is the performance for him. Like, if you were looking for a breakout spot to do it, the first Masters Tour here in Vegas, like, I don't really think he could have done much better, considering the position he's in right now. For Kalaxz, you know, a big part of the French community that's there. Some pretty decent performances on tour stops last year. I think it was like a couple of top 4s throughout some of the European region tour stops that took place.
Yeah, we saw Trek take a win in Take TV, the Germany tour stop, and Maverick, although a Belgian player, very much part of the French-speaking community, taking a win at DreamHack as well.
So this tournament, really big deal. I mean, this single tournament, you know, if you win this one, easily the most money that you've achieved in terms of prize pool from a single event.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same prize pool as the World Championship that Hunter Ace just won. Pretty much.
Yeah, same prize pool. It's just spread out differently.
Yes,
you know?
yeah.
But if you want to talk about World Championships, when you know, Osaka and Firebat won the World Championships, that's the same prize pool we have here. $100,000 up top. You know, you talked about, you know, Posesi perhaps showing a little bit of nerves while on stage. You know, I don't think I can blame him.
Oh, absolutely not.
Yeah,
that was not me trying to, you know, fire shots at him or anything. It's incredibly nerve-wracking. But when you're up against this caliber of player, you're just not really allowed to make those kind of mistakes.
Sorcerer's Apprentice sticks in the face of a Mountain Giant. That's not the way you envision it sticking. And so I think for Kalaxz, he has to make a choice this turn. You know, how much do you fear a Conjurer's Calling in this position from Kalaxz? You know, I'm looking at Sea Giant. I'm looking at a pair of mirror entities with an Archmage Antonidas. I feel like you want to delay this game as much as you can in terms of the disaster point that Posesi could give to you.
I agree. I think this is a miserable situation to be using one of the best cards in this matchup of Frostnova, but he doesn't have much of a choice. If there was a Conjurer's Calling, he could pretty much just give up the game there.
I guess that's one of my questions, is when can you play around Conjurer's Calling and when can you not? Like, you have a tool to answer a single Giant right now. Yeah. Should you answer a single Giant?
I think he should. I think that was the correct play, because the punish for your opponent having it is the ultimate punish. You basically just lose the game.
You just always have to respect it?
I think so. I mean, okay, so this...
No wonder the deck's so good.
The variable there is how bad of a situation do you think you're in if you don't go for, or if you do go for it, sorry, do you ever win the game if you play the Frost Nova and Snap Freeze? To which I think the answer is yes, very possibly.
Well, this is shaping up pretty interestingly because Posesi right now isn't going to really have a wide board presence, and Kalaxz can add a second Sorcerer's Apprentice right now, which if one of the two sticks, he's able to play Archmage and double Mirror Entity behind it. I think this is an opportunity for Kalaxz.
The other line of play he could consider would be double Mirror Image Sea Giant on this turn.
Wow.
A lot of divergent paths he could go for, both of which have their upsides.
And you can see Kalaxz looking at the screen. Like he's figuring out both iterations right now and trying to figure out which one's better. And honestly, I didn't see the Sea Giant one. You just pointed out. And I'm like,
I didn't see your one.
I like Sea Giants. This is the dynamic we have too. I always mention the thing afterwards. You mention the thing now.
Yeah.
How do I always mention the thing afterwards instead of the thing right now? The Sea Giant's better. Oh, the Sea Giant's so much better.
I think I'm actually coming around to your play more. I think sticking Antonidas would be like, because he only has one giant.
You can just play it next turn though.
Yeah. I guess you can actually. Just play
this is just the best of both. This is so much better than holding on for the Antonidas.
You're right, Admirable. I am the best.
Yeah, you're right, Derek. I'm dumb. See that? I bet I wonder how many games I've cost myself now because I just had that epiphany. Just because I saw something good I can do next turn. Does that mean I can do it next turn with something else better now? Oh my gosh, my whole life is a question now. Having like an existential crisis because of this match.
I'm sorry, Admirable, for breaking your entire life.
Posesi going to take 2 spells. Interesting. What is he looking for there?
I mean, I like that he's slowing down because...
Oh, he's trying to just fuel the Luna.
Yeah. I mean, he was starting off the turn looking at just Snap Frost Nova, and I really like doing something else first, because there's a bunch of cards that generate cards or draw cards for him, and Frost Nova in this instance was really just not that powerful.
So I guess the question for Posesi now is actually attacking a minion.
That's true. Good point.
If he attacks a minion, it opens up space for Kalaxz to have his own Conjurer's Calling, which I'm certain is exactly on Posesi's mind as it's been on Kalaxz's.
Conjurer's Calling does still get the extra 8/8. It's not like he has 7 minions in play.
Can't double do it, though.
Yeah, I think I prefer overall leaving it up. We've seen the reasoning why generally in the Mage Mirror you don't go double Mirror Image or Khadgar Mirror Image, because it just fills up so much of your board with minions that you can't kill.
I think Kalaxz has got one play. The thing about it is your opponent just generated some spells, and they have 4 minions in play, and they have 2 bananas. They actually can just clear off the Antonidas. So is Ziliax like a better defensive measure here? Something we didn't really talk about was that Kalaxz playing the Sea Giant meant he could not play Mountain Giant this turn.
He can't guarantee clear off the Antonidas, right? Because you'd kill off the 2 mirror images and then with the 4 things in play. But I agree, it's very likely that the Antonidas would end up dying.
Well, I'm looking at it from Kalax's perspective, too, about foregoing attacks in a position, do you want to keep their board full to mitigate? It's a chain of how much space is too much space on your opponent's board that they've used up. That's been such a real thing in the matchup that I feel like I tunnel on it too much because I constantly see players trying to abuse that factor. And Kalaxz, I think, recognizes it's the time to get aggressive. My Sea Giant's unchecked.
I love this from Kalaxz. I think clearing off the minions was absolutely the way to go.
Oh, no. Oh, no. Well, I mean, when you go for a counterattack in a bad spot, you are vulnerable. There's no way Kalaxz could have avoided that.
This is how you start. It draws a card and costs no mana. Conjurer's Calling is pretty spicy.
That's not going to end well.
Does he source
for
Kalaxz first?
Well, I think what he's trying to focus on right now is how does he draw to the second Frost Nova so that he can actually take advantage of the board that he's got.
Yeah, okay.
He can trade off the 2/2s because the Ziliax is there.
Sorry. Yeah, I forgot about the Ziliax. This is fine. Because I was just afraid that he would run out of board space and wouldn't be able to generate enough pressure for a 2-turn lead. But yeah, I like this a lot.
And remember about the Frost Nova conundrum. If you are the first player to use Frost Nova, you need to capitalize on the Frost Nova. If that chain starts and Kalaxz gets the last freeze, that's when Kalaxz will win the game.
Posesi, again, the rope has been his greatest enemy so far here in the Masters Tour Las Vegas.
Definitely agree with the Frost Nova here. You have Banana up to protect the Sorcerer's Apprentice. Yep. And I think there is merit to foregoing attacks, but I think there is more merit to clearing out and making sure that these giants threaten to connect.
For Kalaxz, even if he finds himself a Frost Nova, he's unable to go Antonidas Frost Nova on the same turn, which would be so crucial.
Luna, you just have to Mana Cyclone for
Luna
nothing.
Cyclone. Like, if he goes Luna Cyclone, plays the second Apprentice, maybe he can get the God Draw of just a bunch of spells.
I mean, this hand won't stay alive right now.
The future is ours.
The vanilla Cyclone never feels good, although it does sound delicious.
Well, there's no 10 drops you can get in this spot.
Yep. He's going for the Doomsayer.
Behold the tools of creation.
You know, sometimes you just got to make big plays. There was no defensive measure that Kalaxz could have had in that spot.
Yeah.
Actually 0. So he rips it. It doesn't work out.
And whether or not he's actually dead on this turn.
Counting 20...
28? 29?
Yeah, I'm counting 29 damage. Oh, my goodness.
1 damage off lethal.
Whoa.
Always the way.
Does that mean that Posesi has to trade stuff then? Oh! I always forget.
There we go. There we go. He found
only
the
Wisps. Wisps are the only zero-cost minions. And so if you want to clear out one of those taunts, Conjurer's Calling always succeeds in wiping away one of them.
Lovely play.
That also makes me question my whole life. How many times have I seen that or missed that?
I mean, this is a great redemption story for Posesi after he missed...
Then, well, you play the Sea Giant. If the answer is he might take it slower and try to draw, I wonder if the Antonidas changes that chain. I mean, I'm looking at super fringe scenarios when I offer up that thought. But the point I'm really trying to demonstrate is that what you do greatly affects what your opponent does.
Right.
And so that, to me, is the greatest skill in Hearthstone, is being able to recognize how will my opponent respond if I make one play versus another. And I think that's just a lot of what this match is about.
It really is. When you're both doing such powerful things, the one weakness of them is they can get a little bit predictable as to what you're going to do.
Yeah. Both players sticking to their primary deck. In this matchup, they have built their main deck to be just the overall push my game plan strategy.
Yep.
And in the Mage Mirror matches, I think even in the face of tech cards, that has often still been one of the stronger choices, is to not water down your deck at all and just push straight forward.
Yeah, some of the weaker tech decisions we've seen in the Mage with you and I in Grandmasters was when people were putting double Big Game Hunter in their Mage to counter the Mage Mirror, which just felt a little too situational, I think we can both agree, because a lot of the time they just go for wide boards. They don't even play the Giants in order to be hit with the Big Game Hunters. So I can agree that a more consistent, lower tech card game plan is perfectly valid.
Kalaxz thinking about coin Arcane Intellect into the Mana Cyclone with Elemental Invocation. He's going for it.
I like it. I think the only real consideration for him here was if he wants to go coin Luna's Pocket Galaxy, because this play was really powerful, and I think he's happy to make it. He was just wondering if the coin Galaxy was more powerful. But wow, that is a premium selection.
That is insane. So he now has a way to contest a Luna on curve. He has a Conjurer's Calling that's been created, and he's got a Snap Freeze for if Posesi goes for a single big giant. That is insane. That's one of the best possible outcomes.
Admirable. That is actually insane.
That is actually one of the... Like, if you could go through a Mage collection and pick 3 cards...
You couldn't choose much better than that for the mirror.
You might consider this as a combination. No, you'd probably replace Icicle with, like, Frostbolt.
You'd pick, like, Frost Nova, I think, is the one thing you could do to improve it.
But the fact that he has a way to contest a Luna on curve here, like, I think that's a meritus of one of your thoughts. My opponent plays turn 3 Luna. Well, I want to kill it, so here, a damage spell.
Wow. I think the only one that trumps that was in Grandmaster's Ball Control's Cyclone against a Warrior, where I think he got like 2 Power of Creations and 3 Conjurer's Callings or something absurd.
He also created like 8 spells.
That's true.
Yeah, like you're bound to get something valuable when you make enough. Like his was clearly above the curve. Then but this is like 3 cards. That's just insane.
Yeah,
I'm very worried for Posesi now. I don't like being worried for players. It stresses me out. Yeah, taking full advantage too. Mana Wraith.
Ooh. I mean, that's kind of just bad for Kalaxz, right? Posesi doesn't even have that many minions, and Luna being at 4 instead of 3 is not that bad. He just can't play the Drake next turn.
Mana Wraith is worse for the player who's behind.
Generally speaking, yes, but it's also bad for the player who has more minions, right? Nope.
Not today.
Yeah, I mean, I see where you're coming from. I think the Drake there would still have been quite a bit better, but it's a good consolation prize for
you'd be
Kalaxz.
seeing a Mountain Giant be able to come down this turn. If you want a Mountain Giant now, you have to Invocation.
Yeah, that's pretty good for Kalaxz.
Actually, would he have been able to Invocation the Giant last turn?
It would have been
6. Yeah, he would have been able to take it to. No, he wouldn't.
No, it wouldn't. It would have gone down to
He
5.
could have double invocationed it.
Yes, so it would actually have been playable last turn.
But because of the Mana Wraith, it was not.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Wow. Okay, I didn't even see that. That's a good spot from you because that's low-key fantastic for Kalaxz. Because with the Conjurers calling off the top as well, Posesi might have been able to snowball this game. And now he's unable to play a Giant.
From his perspective, at least. You know?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
And I think for Kalaxz here, I think that this is very potentially the Luna's Pocket Galaxy turn.
Was he correct to not just play the Giant, though? Like, he's taking a lot of damage, but pinging every turn. I guess he wants to go for Giant and Conjurers calling on the same turn.
Yeah,
it
with
makes
2
sense.
invocations, he has that next turn.
It makes sense. It makes sense.
So for Kalaxz, you know, you just don't get a clean opportunity to use Luna's Pocket Galaxy that often. It's possible it's just not a priority in this matchup, and board presence is.
Wow. We've seen such a difference from players as to how they feel about Luna's Pocket Galaxy with respect to, do you play it, or do you develop more tempo, more stats on board?
Well, here we go. Kalaxz under the gun. He's got to clear this. There's a way to clear it, though.
Yeah, the Frost Nova and the Snap Freeze does a very good job of clearing off one of them.
Can he play a Sea Giant and do this?
Oh, what with the mirror image?
Can he, yeah, I'm curious if like maybe he can he just pressure this back enough, or does he have to go with the Snap Freeze if he wants to clear both? I think you might have to Snap Freeze to clear both.
I mean, the fact that you know that there is at least one more Conjurer's Calling in your opponent's hand kind of demands that you clear it off.
And I think you get a bit of a sign from Posesi using Invocation that his hand might overall be a bit weak on the back end of it as well. Like, your opponent did nothing, and then
that's fair.
Invocation that. Like,
I guess it tells you that they don't have a Cyclone in hand, right, at least.
Or they don't have cheap spells with a Cyclone.
Yeah.
They have a heavy hand with this Conjurer's Calling.
I don't think that necessarily indicates weak, because that could indicate cards like Frost Nova or Conjurer's Calling, exactly, which are pretty good as the game progresses.
So, I guess this is one of the big things I'm looking at here is, can you just create board tension and capitalize differently? One of the things I would think about is, for Posesi, does this just mean like maybe he has more Mountain Giants and Sea Giants and stuff in hand? Like, maybe not the hand's not bad, but it's just clunky. Try to capitalize.
I think from Kalaxz, this is not a happy play, but it's one that he has to do. It clears off the board and deals with all the minions, so Conjurer's Calling cannot kill them. And even now, the ability to go for Icicle or Ziliax to clear off the 5-drop to stop double Conjurer's Calling is huge.
Well, now that he's drawn the Drake, I think he's going to eye the Drake again. But I was going to say this is now another Galaxy opportunity. Like,
yeah, that's true. Yeah,
him playing the Drake was a nod to exactly Evocation, Giant, Conjurer's Calling. He paid specific attention to that.
It's true. That's a good point, actually. If he had gone for the Galaxy on 5,
it's a different game.
I mean, he's behind by quite substantially, I think, at that point as well.
At that point, you're looking at him being able to get out of it with big draws instead of with just answering straight up. I think that's something that I often undervalue versus Mage, is just the ability to kill a Giant, kind of at whatever it costs me. There's only a limited number of big Conjurer's Calling targets in a Cyclone Mage deck. So
when
you're able to eliminate them, 2 in a row, they're kind of just out after that.
They really are. As the expected result, the 2 out of 3 to get the Mana Cyclone there does come from Posesi with only 1 Mountain Giant left and 2 Mana Cyclones. It's not bad, because obviously he can generate a lot of spells in the coming turns, but it's not great. He wanted the Giant.
It's the duel. Board presence versus consistency of draw.
What to do?
That's fair.
This is what we asked for.
And it's pretty firmly in favor of Kalaxz at the moment.
I'm not convinced yet. I think we have to see what this Mana Cyclone does. And then kind of gauge it against, like a law of averages as well. There's a lot of redundancy in Mage spells.
Oh, the Drake has been so good this game. Both Drakes have been insanely good.
It's just a good card.
It's just really good.
I want to put Drake and Acolyte in like every single deck I build.
You're a simple man with simple pleasures.
I like Arcane Intellect as neutral, and I like my Chillin' Yetis to be a bit bigger.
One turn away from the triple Conjurer's Calling.
Just Sea Giant?
Sea Giant trade. How does that shape out?
Do you need to trade?
I think you probably want to trade to play around Khadgar Conjurer's Calling. But but maybe not. Maybe you do just go aggressive.
Is Sea Giant better when you go aggressive to hold in hand so that you can spend mana now and then follow up with Sea Giant?
The thing is with Sea Giant is I think that if your opponent is going to have any chance to come back in the game, the way they do that makes Sea Giant cheap, right? Because the only way they come back is by getting a wide board of stuff.
Yeah.
At which point Sea Giant will very likely be very cheap.
Yeah.
And so I can see the merit for holding it back here and going for Galaxy and Banana Buffoon instead.
I mean, last time he had an opportunity to play it, he just played it. So I don't blame him. The question for Kalaxz is just what's going to give him the most advantage. I feel like Kalaxz is thinking about a lot of things in a more simplistic manner because there's so many variables that
That's
trying to plan something out too cleverly, I feel like, can lead to a pitfall. And that's often the way that I try to size up my games as well. It's like the old adage of keep it simple, stupid. Where if you go too far down the rabbit hole, you're going to end up being in spots where you have no idea what to do with your hand. And wow, what a mana cyclone. That is insane.
This turn was absolutely insane. Blizzard and Snap Freeze are both also ridiculously good cards in the Mage Mirror.
That is bonkers. If you could pick two cards, you might pick those two cards.
You honestly might be right.
What the heck is going on?
And now for Kalaxz, if he does go for... Oh, how does he even capitalize on this? He obviously can make a ridiculously big board on this turn.
That's the thing, is it's hard to look back and see what Kalax's game plan would have been like had he cast Luna's Pocket Galaxy on one of the turns he had available. You would just be looking at a different landscape.
Completely different.
It's like when Bob Ross is painting and he just paints that line straight down and it looks ruined and then he fixes it into a tree. Like, Kalaxz has got to turn this into a tree now.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm not too happy about this position for him.
The problem with these 10 drops, though, is that there's no defensive possibilities. There's no rush and no taunt. And so freeze on these big 10-drop minions just destroys Kalaxz.
Big bad Archmage.
Can he get damage Stegatron? Or the Sunwalker?
Sunwalker, Safeguard. 6 drops are very powerful defensive options. Or just stuff. I'm worried for both players now.
It's really close. And like Posesi's... The thing that's holding Posesi in this game is the triple freeze. Like, the triple freeze puts him so far ahead.
Yep. The first player to expend freeze and cannot capitalize is typically the one at a disadvantage. And I think we're about to see that snowball. Posesi just has all the freezes.
He really does.
Hey, Conjurer's calling again. Threat and lethal.
What can Kalaxz do here? Does he, like... Does Posesi trade off the 2-drop as well?
There's just so many Hakars.
Posesi should trade off the 2-drop here, right? Because he pretty much always has lethal, and he just wants to make sure Doomsayer isn't an out for Kalaxz.
I don't know if that's even something you play around. Like, it's just so rare.
Kalaxz can freeze one minion 100% with the Ray of Frost, which means that you would have... 16,
I want to push
23,
the damage.
25, yeah.
I like when my minions are alive. I don't think about the Doomsayer thing unless I am 100% positive
You're right.
I've won.
I am getting into Cast Division 2 here, because from where Posesi is at, Kalaxz could have 2 Frost Novas. Or he could have 1, sorry, because one is
generated a Blizzard.
Yeah, exactly.
He could be holding Magic Trick. He could have a Mana Cyclone of his own. I mean, there's so many variables. That's one of the things that I think makes Mage the hardest. There is a technical way to solve all those issues. It'll come up with a balanced range of plays that you make, but there's so many variables that you tick a spell count that's generated up by 1 or down by 1, and it's a world of calculations that you have to go through again. It's fundamentals that win these matchups.
Yeah.
When you both have good draws, fundamentals come out on top.
Time runs out on me.
Sometimes it's freezes, but you get what I'm saying.
I do get what you're saying.
Don't get fancy play syndrome.
Another Hakar being activated here for Kalaxz.
He's looking for, I think, sometimes like Mechathoon or Boom Reaver to be able to attach that Ziliax.
Oh, good point. Good point. Yeah, that would have been a big deal actually. I mean, we can see Blizzard Snap Freeze would have cleaned that up, but that's what he needs to go for.
The life restoration and a big swing. I think that's what he's looking for.
Yep.
And Corrupted Bloods are becoming abundant in players' decks, so draws are becoming dangerous as well.
As now I think Posesi just goes for Blizzard Snap Freeze, right? Like, it gains him so much damage to kill off the Ziliax.
I guess my question is, do you need to Snap Freeze?
I wonder.
I guess you can count. Oh, well.
Wow.
That makes it a little bit easier.
Wow. That's just...
Or is this just lethal right now?
It's
just lethal.
Wow. Posesi, as soon as he has an opportunity, capitalizes. And Kalaxz, he's just done.
He's just done. It breaks my heart to see. Kalaxz is a player who I've had so much respect for over last year and even this year as well. Grinding away and just missing out on a spot at Grandmasters. But he can hold his head high.